The Khazari scout ships came out of slip space near a small rocky moon that looked like nothing special. The moon orbited a plain yellow star far from any busy trade routes. Human charts called the system nothing important, and the moon had only one small dome cluster. Humans said it was a mining post with few guards. The Khazari leaders thought it would make a good first hit to test human speed and strength before the big war started. Fleet Captain Vrenthal stood on the bridge of his command ship. He was yard tall with hard scales and sharp eyes. His crew watched the screens as the small moon grew closer. Probes had already sent back pictures. The dome looked old and simple. There were a few towers that might hold guns, but nothing heavy. No big ships waited in orbit. No shields glowed around the base. It seemed weak and easy. Vrenthal gave the order. 300 shock troops climbed into drop pods. The pods were fast and strong. Each soldier wore thick armor made from special plates that could stop most shots. See, they carried long phase lances that cut through metal and neuroguns that made enemies freeze in pain. The Khazari were proud of their elite fighters. They had won many battles against other races. This would be quick. The pods fell like rain toward the moon. Surface dawn light touched the dusty ground as the first pods hit and opened. Soldiers jumped out. They formed fast lines and moved toward the main dome. No alarm sounded. No humans ran out shooting. The Khazari thought the miners were still asleep or he's too scared to fight. Then fire came from everywhere. Hidden holes in the rocks opened, and bright streams of bullets flew out. The shots hit hard. Many Khazari soldiers dropped at once. Armor cracked open. Blood sprayed on the gray dust. The survivors tried to find cover, but more fire came from other sides. It was not wild shooting. It was calm and planned. Every bullet found a target. Voices spoke over open channels in rough trade language. Contact grid. 7330. Plus aliens in armor. We engage now. The words sounded bored. Like this happened every day, Vrenthal watched the helmet feeds from his troops. His best fighters tried to push forward. They used their phase lances to burn through rock barriers. But humans moved too fast. They jumped from boulder to boulder, slid under shots and shot back with perfect aim. Black armored figures appeared and disappeared like shadows. One human ran straight at a Khazari squad. He held no gun. He used only his hands and feet. He grabbed one soldier by the arm, twisted, all hard and broke bone. Then he took the fallen phase lance and fired it into the rest. The Khazari fell back in shock. More pods landed to help the first wave. Vrenthal sent heavy support with big guns. The new troops charged the outer wall. They expected to break through fast. Instead, traps waited. Explosions ripped the ground under their feet. Sharp metal flew out and cut legs and arms. Smoke filled the air. Humans used the smoke to move closer. They threw small balls that burst with bright light and loud a noise. Khazari soldiers could not see or think for long moments. Inside the dome area, the fight grew worse. Corridors looked normal at first, then walls opened and small guns popped out. They fired fast and moved back. Humans in teams of 6 worked together like one body. One group shot to keep heads down while others ran to the side and attacked from behind. When Khazari thought they had trapped some humans, those humans dropped through floor holes into dark tunnels. They came up again behind the aliens and shot them down. Vrenthal felt anger rise in his chest. This was not a mining post. These were warriors trained for war. The humans did not scream or run. They spoke in short words. Move left. Cover me. Grenade out. Clear. They laughed sometimes when a shot missed or when they took a weapon from a dead Khazari. One human even picked up a heavy neurogun that normally needed 2 Khazari to carry. He held it in one hand and fired at a group running toward him. The battle went on for hours. Khazari numbers dropped fast. They had started with 300. Now less than half stood. Many lay still on the ground. Humans moved over the bodies, checking for threats. They took no prisoners yet. They just kept fighting. Vrenthal ordered his ships to send more pods. He would not lose this fight to a few miners, but deep inside he started to feel something new. Fear. His troops were the best in the Dominion. They had crushed strong enemies before, Yet here on this empty moon they died fast and without honor. A new voice came over, in the channels. This one was deep and rough. Blue team reset to phase 3. Red team, you are dead. Respawn in 30. Again. Faster this time. The words made no sense to Vrenthal at first. Then he understood. These humans were not defending a base. They were practicing. They used real enemies as part of their training. The dead Khazari were just targets for the lesson. Vrenthal gripped the command chair hard. His claws dug into the metal. He had sent his elite to die in a game. The moon was not a weak post. It was a hard school for human killers, and his soldiers had just become the practice dummies. The fight continued. Dust rose high in the thin air. Laser flashes lit the dark shadows. Humans kept moving, never stopping, never afraid. The Khazari, who still lived, started to run back toward their pods, but humans followed, cutting off paths, forcing them into open ground where more fire waited. Vrenthal knew the truth now. This was no easy victory. This was a trap set long ago. The humans had waited for someone like him, or to come and test themselves against real foes, and they were winning without breaking a sweat. The moon's surface became a field of broken armor and silent bodies. The dome still stood untouched. The towers still watched. The humans still moved like hunters who knew every trick. Vrenthal spoke to his remaining officers. Pull back. We need to report this. But even as he said the words, he knew it was too late. The dropships were already lost. Many soldiers had no way home. The humans had planned every step on. Saw the ground a single human in black armor stood on a rock. He looked at the last Khazari group. He raised one hand not in surrender but in calm signal. Hold fire. They want to see the rest. The other humans stopped shooting. They waited. They watched. Vrenthal stared at the screen. The human smiled just a little, then he spoke again into the open channel. Welcome to the first test. You did not pass. The words hung in the air. The Khazari who heard them felt cold. The war had not started yet, but for them it was. Already over. The moon stayed quiet except for the wind and the soft steps of human boots. They walked among the fallen, they took notes, they learned, they got better. And somewhere far away, other human ships waited. They would hear the story soon. They would smile too, because another class had just finished its live drill, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Khazari soldiers who still lived pushed deeper into the dome area. They believed more numbers and stronger weapons would turn the fight. They had lost many outside, but the main habitat looked close now. The big central dome rose ahead, with wide doors that stood open like an invitation. They rushed forward in tight groups, firing phase lances at every shadow. Inside, the corridors changed fast. Wide halls narrowed into tight passages with many turns. Lights flickered on purpose to confuse eyes. Walls had hidden panels that slid open without warning. Small guns appeared from ceilings and floors. They spat bullets in short bursts, then vanished. Eat again. The Khazari tried to shoot back, but the guns moved too quick. Humans stayed out of sight most of the time. They used the walls and corners like friends. A Khazari heavy team reached what looked like the control room. They saw 3 humans inside standing still, with hands up. The Khazari leader grinned and raised his lance to finish them. Then the floor under the 3 humans dropped away. They fell into darkness without a sound. The Khazari stepped forward to look down. Black shapes rose from below behind, and them, the humans had come up through another tunnel. They opened fire at close range. The heavy team died in seconds. Armor plates flew apart from the blasts. Other squads found the same trick everywhere. When Khazari cornered what seemed like weak humans, those humans vanished into holes in the ground or behind fake panels. They appeared again where least expected. Shooting from sides. Shooting from above. Shooting from places no one thought possible. The Khazari started to shout warnings, but the warnings came. Too late. Every time smoke filled many halls, humans threw small canisters that burst and made thick gray clouds. The Khazari could not see well through the smoke. Their helmet visors tried to clear the view, but humans moved faster than the systems could track. One Khazari soldier fired blindly into the fog. He hit nothing. Then a human appeared right in front of him. The human wore no helmet, just a black mask over his face. He grabbed the Zari by the throat, lifted him off the ground, and slammed him into the wall. The crack of breaking scales echoed loud. The human took the fallen lance and kept moving. Hand to hand, fights started in narrow spots. Khazari were bigger and stronger on paper, but humans fought dirty. They used knees and elbows and headbutts. They twisted joints in ways Khazari bodies did not bend. They bit when needed. One small human woman faced a Khazari twice her size. She dodged his swing, ducked low, and drove a knife up under his arm joint. The blade went deep. She pulled it out, twisted, and pushed again. The Khazari dropped without a sound. She stepped over him and joined her team again. The Khazari tried to use their neurodisruptors more. These guns sent waves that should freeze muscles and stop movement. But humans wore suits with special linings. The waves hit but did little. Some humans shook for a second, then laughed loud. They charged through the pain swinging blades or firing guns. One man took a full disruptor blast to the chest. He staggered back, then ran forward again. He tackled the shooter, and pounded his helmet until it cracked open. Red blood mixed with green. Khazari ichor on the floor. Vrenthal watched every feed from his ship. His claws dug deeper into the chair. He saw his elite troops break apart piece by piece. They had trained for years to fight as one. Now they died alone, confused, and afraid. Orders came slower. Responses came slower. Fear spread like poison through the ranks. A voice spoke again over the open channel. This time, it sounded calm and clear, like a teacher. Red, our squad. You failed the breach drill. Your timing was off by 7 seconds. Blue squad, good flank, but you left your rear open. Next time, cover it. We will run this section again in 5 minutes. The voice paused, then added, Remember, this is live fire, make it count. Vrenthal understood more now. These humans ran the battle like a class. They graded every move. They noted every mistake. The dead Xari were just bad students who would never get a second chance. The living ones were still in the test. And the test, grew harder. Humans started to herd the Xari survivors. They did not kill everyone now. They used bright flashes and loud bangs to push groups toward one big open crater in the center of the base. The crater had been hidden under thick nets that looked like normal ground. When the nets pulled back, the hole showed deep and wide. Around the edges, humans stood in lines with guns ready. They did not shoot to kill anymore. They shot to wound legs or arms to slow the runners. They wanted prisoners now. Khazari, and soldiers ran toward the crater because no other path stayed open. Explosions blocked side tunnels. Smoke forced them forward. Humans appeared behind and closed the circle. The trap closed tight. The last free Xari fighters stood in the middle. Surrounded. They raised weapons, but humans held fire. A single human walked forward from the crater edge. He looked older with short gray hair and scars on his face. He wore simple clothes. No heavy armor, just a worn jacket and boots. He carried no gun. He stopped at the rim and looked down at the survivors. He raised a hand. The other humans lowered their weapons. He spoke into a small speaker that carried his voice everywhere. You have reached the end of Phase 2. Your attack stalled here. Your losses stand at over 200. You gained no ground of value. Your leaders still live, so you get to learn from this. Now listen close. This place you attacked is not a mining post. It is training ground number 7. Human Elite Assault School. You were the enemy force in today's exercise. The old human smiled a little. You did better than the last group. They lasted only 90 minutes. You gave us 4 good hours of data. Thank you for that. We needed realistic opponents. Your armor held up well against our standard rounds. Your lances cut through dummy walls just fine, but your tactics need work. You repeat the same patterns every time. We saw them coming from the first probe scan 3 cycles ago. Vrenthal listened from his bridge. His heart beat hard. This old, soft human. Spoke like he commanded fleets. He talked about death. like it was a score on a test. The Khazari who stood in the crater looked up with wide eyes. They had come to conquer. Now they stood as failed students. The old human continued. We record everything. Every shot, every step, every scream. It goes into our files, we study it. We improve, we get stronger. You came here to test us. You failed the test. But we passed with high marks. No human died today. One twisted an ankle during a fast move, that is all. Now I will help us make the next class harder. He turned to his people. Take them to the holding area. Process them for return. We keep the gear for study. The bodies stay for analysis. The living go home with a message. Humans moved in. They used thin wires to bind wrists. They guided the Khazari down into tunnels that led under the crater. The prisoners walked in silence. They passed rooms full of screens that showed the fight again and again. Humans pointed at mistakes and talked in low voices like coaches after a lost game. Vrenthal knew the war had changed in one day. His dominion thought humans weak. Now the truth stood clear. Humans built places like this on purpose. They invited enemies to come and die so they could learn. They turned war into school, and they were the best students in the galaxy. The crater grew quiet again. Wind moved dust over the broken armor. The dome lights stayed on. The humans walked back to their positions. They cleaned weapons. They reset traps. They prepared for the next, and waited for anyone who came to test human. Waited for anyone who came to test human defenses. The moon turned slow under the yellow star. Another day ended. Another lesson finished. The school stayed open, ready for more students, ready for more failures. The old human stood tall on the edge of the crater. His gray hair caught the weak light from the yellow star. He looked down at the last Khazari survivors who knelt in the dust with thin wires around their wrists. They numbered fewer than 40 now. Their bright armor looked dull and broken. Many had wounds that still bled green. The humans around the crater held their guns low but ready. They watched without anger or joy, just calm attention like guards at a quiet prison. The old man lifted a small speaker to his mouth. His voice carried clear and strong over the open channels, so every Zari helmet picked it up. You have completed the live portion of the exercise. Your performance data has been collected and analyzed. We will now move to the debrief phase. Stand and follow the marked path. Do not resist, or we will add more injuries to your list. The Khazari looked at each other. Some tried to stand proud, but their legs shook. Vrenthal still watched from his ship bridge. His main feed showed the crater scene. He felt sick in his gut scales. This soft human spoke like he owned the moon, like he owned the fight, like he owned their lives. A man turned and walked toward a wide tunnel entrance that led under the main dome. Humans nudged the prisoners to follow. Single file, they moved down the slope into shadow. The tunnel lit up with soft white lights along the walls. It looked clean and new. Not like a war base, more like a school hall. The air smelled of metal and faint sweat. The prisoners passed doors that stayed closed. Some doors had small windows. Inside, humans sat at screens. They pointed at moving pictures of the battle. They talked in low voices and nodded. The Khazari saw their own deaths replayed in bright color from every angle. One prisoner stopped to stare. A human guard pushed him gently forward. Keep moving. The show is not over yet. They reached a large open room. The ceiling rose high. Bright lights shone down from above. The floor had smooth gray tiles. In the center stood a raised platform made of dark metal. On the platform sat rows of chairs facing a wide curved screen. The chairs looked comfortable but strong enough to hold on Khazari weight. The old man walked up the steps and stood in front of the screen. He waved a hand. The prisoners were guided to sit in the chairs. Wires stayed on their wrists, but the guards stepped back a little. The old man spoke again. My name is Commandant Reyes. I run this facility. You may call me sir or nothing at all. Your choice. Today, you are guests in Human Orbital Assault and Defense Course. Class 47. You attacked what you thought was a weak mining post. You found something different. Now, Enos, we will show you exactly what you found and why you lost so fast. The big screen came to life. It showed the moon from high orbit. Then it zoomed in fast to the first drop pods landing. The view switched to helmet cameras from Zari troops. Green and red markers appeared on the screen. They showed movement paths, fire lines and kill zones. A calm female voice spoke over the images. Initial contact at 0347. Local drop. Pod Alpha Group engaged by concealed automated systems and human fire. E-teams. Casualties in first 30 seconds, 47%. The Khazari prisoners stared. Some lowered their heads. Others gripped the chair arms hard. The screen changed to slow motion. It showed a Khazari squad charging a rock line. Humans popped up from hidden slots. They fired in perfect rhythm. One shot per target. No waste, the voice continued. Flanking attempt. Through Eastern Ravine predicted from probe data. Pre-registered mortar fire deployed at 0402. Your heavy lance team lost cohesion. When Point Man fell, Commander hesitated 1.8 seconds. That delay allowed Blue Team to reposition and cut supply line. Reyes pointed at the screen. See here, your armor stopped most small rounds. Good design, but our saboted penetrators at 14.5 millimeters punched through at close range. You did not angle your plates correctly. Next slide shows thermal imaging. Your troops ran hot after 2 minutes of combat. You overtaxed your cooling systems. We knew when you would slow down. Split they joined. They circled. The red split. They joined, they circled. The red blobs shrank fast. Reyes spoke in a flat voice. Your shock doctrine relies on speed and terror. We trained against that for years. We built counters into every level of the course. Your neurodisruptors worked on unarmored targets. Fine, but our suits have active countermeasures. We absorbed 80% of the wave energy. You wasted power. One young Zari soldier stood up fast. His voice cracked through his helmet speaker. This cannot be real. You are soft. You have no honor. You fight like cowards from holes and traps. Reyes looked at him without anger. You came here to kill us. We gave you a fair test. You failed. Honor is for stories. Cowards die quick. Winners live to teach the next group. Sit down, or we will help you sit. The soldier sat. The screen kept rolling. It showed hand-to-hand fights in slow detail. A human twisted a Khazari arm until the joint popped. A woman drove her knee into a groin plate that cracked. Another human laughed as he took a disruptor hit, then charged and broke a neck. The voice listed stats. Hand-to-hand engagements, 23. Human wins, 23. Average time to incapacitate 6.4 seconds. Your troops average 4.1 in training. We improved that today. Reyes walked along the front of the platform. He looked at each prisoner. You thought we were minors because we let your scouts see minors. We planted false data for 3 cycles. We built dummy domes with fake heat signatures. We let you land because we needed fresh opponents. Our last live fire used drones. Too predictable. You gave us real fear, real mistakes, real data. Thank you. He stopped in front of Vrenthal, who had been brought in last and seated in the front row. Vrenthal stared up. Reyes met his eyes. You are fleet. Captain Vrenthal. Your orders? Show good. E-planning. You chose Dawn for surprise. You spread your drop zones well, but you trusted bad intel. You did not question the quiet. You did not expect resistance, you paid for it. Now your Dominion will get this full recording. High resolution. Every angle, every voice, every error. It goes out tonight to every human command. Reyes smiled thin. No casualties on our side. One sprained ankle during a breach demo. That trooper will get light duty for a week. Your side 312 dead or captured. We call that a good day. A learning day. Your people will study this. They will change tactics. They will train harder. Maybe next time you send better troops, or maybe you send words instead of guns. Either way, we stay ready. The screen went dark. The room stayed quiet. Reyes stepped down. He walked close to the prisoners. We will feed you soon. Basic nutrition. No poison. Then we prepare you for return. You go home alive with your gear. Data removed. We keep samples for study. You carry the message. Tell your leaders. So next probe will find the same welcome, stronger, faster meaner. Because we learn fast, and we never stop training. Guards moved in. They led the Xari to side doors that opened to smaller rooms with beds and food stations. The prisoners walked slow. Their minds spun with pictures and words. They had come as conquerors. They left as examples, as warnings, as failed students in a school that never closed. Outside the moon, surface lay still. Broken pods sat silent. Dust covered the blood spots humans worked in, our teams. They cleared wreckage, they rebuilt dummy walls, they checked guns, they laughed about small wins, they prepared for the next class. Reyes stood alone for a moment. He looked up at the black sky. He knew other eyes watched from far ships. He knew reports flew fast. He knew the galaxy just got a little smaller for anyone who thought humans weak. The Khazari prisoners sat in the long, low room under the dome. The walls glowed soft white, and the air stayed cool and clean. Small tables stood in rows with simple benches. Humans had placed trays on each table. Basic food. Waited there. Nutrient paste in gray bowls, water in clear cups, and flat bread that looked plain but smelled fresh. The prisoners stared at the food. Some felt too sick to eat. Others took small bites because hunger won over pride. Commandant Reyes walked between the tables. He moved slow and steady. His boots made quiet sounds on the smooth floor. He stopped now and then to look at a prisoner face to face. No anger showed in his eyes. Just so steady calm like a man who had seen many battles and many losses. He spoke in a low voice that carried to everyone. You will eat. You will stay strong enough for the trip home. We do not starve guests, even failed ones. Vrenthal sat at the front table, his wrists still bound with thin wire that cut just enough to remind him of his place. He looked up at Reyes. The commandant pulled a chair and sat across from him, face to face. Reyes leaned forward a little. Your name is Vrenthal Fleet, Captain Third Strike. The group you wrote the assault plan yourself. We pulled it from your command pod, databanks. Good structure, clear objectives, bad intel, bad assumptions. You trusted probes that saw what we wanted them to see. Vrenthal spoke through his helmet speaker, his voice rough. You mock us. You turn war into a game. You kill without honor. Reyes shook his head, slow. No mockery here, just facts. War is not a game. It is the hardest school. There are no second chances in real war. So we make chances here. We build places like on this moon. We invite tests. We learn from every failure, yours and ours. Today you failed. We did not. A human woman walked up. She had short dark hair and a metal arm that gleamed under the lights. She carried a small flat device. She set it on the table between Vrenthal and Reyes. The device lit up. It showed a holomap of the battle lines moved fast. Colors flashed. Red for Khazari, blue for humans. The woman pointed at spots as she talked. Your reactive plates stopped 40% of our initial rounds gone. How bad? But we used tungsten cores at velocity 3,000 meters per second. You angled wrong on the approach. Your cooling vents overheated after 120 seconds of sustained fire. We saw the signature spike. We waited for it. Then we hit the weak joints. She tapped the hollow again. Your phase lances cycle in 4.2 seconds. We timed them. We used those windows. Our rifles fire in bursts of 3. We matched your cycle. You gave us the rhythm. We danced to it. She looked at Vrenthal. Straight. You trained your troops to charge, to overwhelm with speed and numbers. We trained ours to wait, to cut, to bleed you slow. Your doctrine met our counter. Your doctrine lost. Reyes nodded. He took over the talk. Your Dominion thinks humans break easy. You saw today, we do not break. We bend. We learn. We come back stronger. 3 years ago, we started this course with drones and robots. Good, but not real. Then we used captured pirates. They fought dirty but predictable. Last year, we invited small raids from border clans. They gave us better data, but nothing matches a full elite drop like yours. You came with 300 of your best. You gave us perfect opposition. We thank you for the gift. Vrenthal felt cold under his scales. He looked around. Other Gazari listened. Some stared at their food untouched. Others ate slow like machines. The woman with the metal arm kept talking. We have every move recorded. Helmet feeds, drone, sweeps, buried sensors, thermal, acoustic, seismic, all of it. High resolution, mass spectrum. It already burst out on tight-beamed assault command. Every fleet admiral will see it tonight. They will study your armor, your weapons, your formations. They will build new drills. They will make new counters. Your attack just made us deadlier. Reyes stood up. He walked to the center of the room so all could see him. He raised his voice just enough. You came to probe human weakness. You found human strength. You paid in blood, we paid in effort. That is fair trade. Now you return home. You carry our weapons. No data cores. We strip them clean. But you carry memory. You carry truth. Tell your high command what you saw. Tell them the miners were not miners. Tell them the outpost was never an outpost. Tell them Hells. Half-Acre waits for anyone who wants to test us again. He paused a moment. Then he added one more thing. And tell them this. Next time, send words, not soldiers. Because if soldiers come, we will treat them the same way. We will record. We will teach. We will win, and we will send you back alive. Mina, so the lesson spreads. Guards moved in again. They led the Xari out of the eating room down another clean hall. The hall ended at a wide bay door. The door opened to show a line of human transports. Small, sturdy ships with heavy hulls and no weapons showing. The transports looked plain but strong enough to cross systems. Humans had already loaded the living Xari gear, inside stripped of power cells and data chips. Bodies stayed behind for study. Samples, taken armor. Pieces kept for tests. The message was, "Suck clear." We learn from everything. Vrenthal walked last. He looked back once. He saw Reyes standing at the bay entrance. The old man raised one hand in calm salute. No smile, no frown, just steady eyes that said much without words. Vrenthal turned and stepped into the transport. The door closed behind him. The ship hummed as engines warmed. Inside the transport, the Khazari sat in rows. Restraints held them gentle but firm. No one spoke much. Some closed their eyes. Others stared at the floor. The ship lifted smooth. It climbed through the thin air. Past the broken pods, past the quiet crater, past the dome that still stood strong. The moon fell away below them. The yellow star lit the dusty surface one last time. On the bridge of his command ship, Vrenthal had left behind. Reyes watched the transports climb. He turned to his second, a tall woman with calm face. She nodded once. All data sent. Clean burst. No trace left. They will see it in 6 hours, give or take. Reyes looked up at the black sky. Good. Let them see, let them. Let them choose their next move. Below on the surface, work continued. Humans in teams cleared the field. They dragged wreckage to recycle pits. They rebuilt dummy walls, they tested guns. They laughed about close calls, they marked new weak spots. They planned harder drills. The sprained ankle trooper sat on a crate with his foot up. He grinned as friends teased him. He would heal fast, he would fight again. The moon stayed quiet except for the soft sounds of machines and voices. The school never closed. It waited patient. It stayed ready. It grew stronger with every lesson. Every failure, every guest who came and left changed. Far away in the Dominion halls, analysts would soon gather. They would watch the feeds. They would see disciplined humans. They would see calm killers. They would see a race that turned pain into progress. They would understand the cost of underestimation. And somewhere in the deep black, other human ships turned toward new borders. They carried fresh orders. They carried new plans. Or carried the knowledge that their kind did not just survive. They thrived. They learned. They waited. The transports flew on toward Kazari space. Inside, the prisoners sat silent. They carried no weapons, but they carried something heavier. They carried the truth. They carried the warning. They carried the story of a place where war became school and humans became the teachers. No one wanted to meet. The stars watched silent. The galaxy waited. The next test would come soon. But now, the humans rested a little. It's like they cleaned their tools, they sharpened their minds, they smiled small smiles because another class had passed, and they had aced it once again. The transports flew steady through the black between stars. The small ships carried the last living Xari away from the moon. Their hulls gleamed faint under the yellow light that grew smaller behind them. Inside, the prisoners sat quiet in their rows. Some closed their eyes. Others stared at nothing. The weight of what happened pressed heavy on every scaled. Chest Vrenthal sat near the front. He felt the thin restraints on his wrists. He felt the empty spot where his command pod used to be. He felt the silence louder than any battle cry. The lead transport pilot spoke over the internal speakers in calm trade language. "We approach Kazari border space in 4 hours. Your ships will meet us there. We hand you over. No tricks, no traps, just return. This is the agreement." Commandant Reyes gave his word. Humans keep their word when it suits them. The prisoners said, "Ye nothing." Some nodded slow. Others looked away. Back on the moon, the dust settled slow. Humans worked under the weak sun. They moved like machines that never tired. Teams dragged broken pods to scrap piles. They cut armor plates free. They sorted weapons. They tagged pieces for study. Other teams rebuilt the dummy domes. They raised new walls. They placed fresh traps. They tested hidden guns with short bursts. The crater filled again with clean sand. Nets stretched over it once more. The school reset itself. Piece by piece, Reyes stood on a high rock. He watched his people work. His scarred face showed no smile, no frown. Just steady lines carved by years of command. A young officer walked up. She carried a datapad. She saluted crisp. "Sir, all recordings cleaned and sent. Burst transmission. Complete Sol command. Confirms receipt. They want full debrief in 72 hours. They say this changes border doctrine." Reyes nodded once. "Good. Tell the teams. Double rest cycles after reset. We earned it." The officer smiled. "The small, yes sir, and the sprained ankle. He will walk tomorrow. Already complains about light duty." Reyes gave a short laugh. "That one will lead his own class someday. Mark my words." The officer left. Reyes stayed on the rock. He looked up at the empty sky. He knew the transports flew far now. He knew the Xari would soon see the truth. He knew reports would flood. Dominion war rooms. Analysts would gather in dark halls. They would play the feeds over and over. They would freeze frames. They would measure angles. They would count every missed shot, every slow reaction. They would see humans move like predators who knew no fear. They would see calm voices give orders over screams. They would see a race that treated death as data. They would understand the cost of pride. In one transport, Vrenthal broke the silence. He spoke low so only nearby prisoners heard. "We came as hunters. We leave as prey. We thought them soft. We found them hard. We thought them weak. We found them ready." The words hung in the air. "Another Xaris," answered quiet. "They built this place for us. They waited years. They turned our strength against us. We gave them gifts we never meant to give." Another voice added low. "We will tell the high command. We will speak truth, or they will send more, and more will die." The first one nodded slow, "Or they will listen and send words instead." The ship stayed quiet after that. Each prisoner thought his own thoughts. Each carried the same heavy truth. Hours passed. The transports reached the edge of Khazari space. Big. Our Dominion cruisers waited there. Heavy guns stayed silent. No shots fired. The handover happened fast. Small shuttles met the human ships. Khazari officers boarded. They saw the prisoners. They saw the empty eyes. They saw the missing gear. They asked no questions. They took the living and left the rest behind. The human pilots saluted once, then turned their ships away. They flew back toward the moon without a word. On the Dominion flagship, the returned soldiers walked slow down wide corridors. Medics met them. They checked wounds. They gave clean bandages. They asked careful questions. The stories came out piece by piece. Not boasts, not excuses, just plain facts. The miners fought like devils. The domes hid death. The humans laughed at pain. They graded every move they sent us home to teach others. High Command listened in a sealed room. They watched the burst data. They saw the same feeds the humans sent. Every angle, every voice, every failure. The room stayed quiet except for soft gasps and sharp breaths. One, or Admiral stood. He looked old and hard. His scales shone dull under the lights. He spoke slow. This changes much. We thought humans scattered. We thought them loud. We thought them easy prey. We were wrong. They build schools from battlefields. They turn enemies into lessons. They grow stronger from every scar. We must change. We must train harder. We must think deeper, or we break against them. The others nodded. No arguments rose. The truth stood too clear. Weeks passed. The Dominion shifted quiet. New drills. They started new tactics born from the moon feeds. Troops ran harder. They learned to wait. They learned to watch angles. They learned to fear the calm voice over open channels. They built their own mock bases. They invited small tests. They paid in sweat to avoid payment in blood. The High Command sent quiet messages to human channels. Words came careful. No threats, no promises, just contact. The galaxy watched. Slow change moved under the surface. Back on the moon, Class 48 began. New trainees landed in. Voice, welcome to Hell's Half-Acre. You voice, welcome to Hell's Half-Acre. You think you know war, you know nothing yet. Today you learn. Today you bleed. Today you get better. Listen close. The galaxy sends its best to test us. We send them home changed. We send them home wiser. We send them home afraid. Because that is how we stay free. The trainees cheered short and sharp. They formed. Or lines. They moved to positions. They checked weapons. They waited for the signal. Reyes watched them. He felt pride, quiet and deep. These were his people. These were humanity's edge. Sharp ready. Always learning. Far away in deep space, human fleets turned slow. They received the new data. They studied the Khazari moves, they built new counters, they drilled in black silence. They knew the next test would come. They knew it would be harder. They smiled small smiles. Because they loved the challenge. They loved the I fight. They loved the lesson. The moon spun slow under the yellow star. Dust covered old scars. New ones waited to form. The school stayed open. Lights burned in domes. Voices echoed in halls. Guns stayed ready. Traps stayed set. The teachers never rested. The students never stopped coming. And somewhere in the vast dark, a new probe drifted close. Another scout ship watched from far. Another fleet captain planned his move. The galaxy turned. The game continued. The humans waited. Patient, strong, unbroken. Because, in the end, the most dangerous thing was never a fleet, never a weapon. It was a human who saw war as school, who saw death as teacher, who saw failure as fuel, and who never ever stopped learning. The stars stayed silent. They watched. They waited. They knew the next chapter would come soon, and when it did, the humans would be ready. Ready to teach. Ready to win. Ready to remind the galaxy once more why it was wise to leave them alone,